allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, you brothers. Oh, got the on your own.
Okay, before we start here, let's do a roll call first.
Mayor Orr,
Here.
Councilman Baker,
Here.
Councilman Martinez,
Here.
Councilwoman Pilkington. Here. Councilman Edwards.
Here.
Councilwoman Kenninger. Here. And Councilman Villagrana.
Here.
Okay, before we start, Councilman Martinez wanted to comment on something, so I'm going to let him go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Keith, and rest of you. I want to say something about what Bob Woods and city crew done. Is write up a nice little deal in the back of this paper about our truck driver, trash truck driver passing away the 27th of last Monday. And it was a nice article that they'd written up about Robert. We're sure going to miss him. And the path is through. He's on his way up. And I appreciate what he done for us. And all the people are. He's just like a brother and like a family to us. And everybody appreciate him. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks for that comment. Okay, moving on, we'll do the approval of minutes for the regular meeting of January 26, 2014.
I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes of our regular meeting for January 26, 2014, as presented.
Second.
Do you have first and a second discussion from you?
I think you need, they say January 21st, 2104.
Oh,
So then you want to
2104.
modify that other than that.
Okay, so it's all now 2014.
No, the minutes are wrong. I amend my motion to reflect that as the January 21st, 2104. But you want to change that, you want us to modify that, correct? To correct that? Amend it, modify it, change it, whatever.
The meeting was really on January 21st.
21st.
And the
Because
minutes
of the-
say the 21st. The agenda
It's not
says the
26th.
26th, so the minutes
Okay.
are correct.
Well, no, but the minutes say 2104.
Yeah.
It's really 2014.
Okay.
I second it.
So we have correct. Agenda and
And then Tommy seconded it. Roll call, please.
Okay. Villagrana.
Yes.
Martinez.
Yes.
Pilkington.
Abstain.
Edwards.
Yes.
Kenninger.
Yes.
And Mayor Orr.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Rough night.
That's gonna be a long night. Oh my.
It's gonna be starting out like the Broncos started out.
They started bad, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a fumble right there.
It was a fumble from the get-go. Okay. We're moving on. Visitors, we got first up is Joanne Moore, Farmers Market request. This one,
Whose phone?
It wasn't mine too.
And Joanne Moore, 121 West Front Street. I am here representing the Florence Farmers Market. We gave you all a letter we'd like you to read and approve.
May I ask a question? May I ask a question? Have you considered having a farmer's market on Saturday or Sunday? My son always complains that he has to be in school when farmer's market is on.
We thought about that, but there's so many big markets around in Pueblo and Colorado Springs. Some of our vegetable vendors, we couldn't get them here on that day.
Oh, okay.
So we did talk about that, yes.
Too bad,
Understand
because
that,
he's
yeah.
always saying that he doesn't want to go to school just because there is a farmer's market and he really
Yeah,
would like
have
to
him
go
come
there,
earlier.
but he can't because he has to be in school.
Tell them to come earlier.
Come earlier.
Well,
About 5 o'clock.
it's, yeah, they start at 8 o'clock, yeah.
7.
Yeah, I mean, school stuff.
And in your letter, you had June 5th, October 2nd, 2013.
I know, I see
Okay.
that too.
We just wanted to correct that.
Yes,
We're
yeah.
on a roll tonight.
I kept running roll. I did it right when I did January the 29th, 2014, but then down, I put 13.
Okay. Any other discussion from council?
When do we act on that, please?
So do we need to do a motion on this?
Just a motion for
Just,
them to have the use of the park on those days through those dates on Thursdays.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to motion to give permission for the use of the Pioneer Park on Thursdays from June 5th through October 2nd, 2014. Hours as noted.
I'll second.
Okay, we have first, Mr. Edwards, second, Donna. Roll call, please.
Edwards.
Aye.
Hiltingsrud.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Martinez.
Yes.
Henninger. Aye. Villagrana.
Aye.
Mayor Orr.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up is Richard Upton for the car show request.
Dick Upton, 401 Tanner Avenue. You have a little map in your packet on street closures for the car show. And it's basically the same layout as last year. We had all these requested. However, we didn't use Santa Fe, which turned out to be a mistake because it was such an overwhelming success last year. We needed more room. So we'll take them this year. So as you look, it's between Petroleum and Maple, Santa Fe to the south, halfway on the street, Pikes Peak, halfway to the alleys. And then as you go north on Santa Fe, it's all the way to the alley, and the same with Pikes Peak, all the way to the alley. And that should give us enough room, we hope. And there would be additional parking further to the west along the streets in front of St. Elmo's if we run out of room, and all the way down to Willie's if that's a necessity. And we put in 5:30 in the morning this year. Last year we had some problems with modern cars parked, and I think it's for the restaurants. So we had to try and chase people down to get them to move cars, to put vendors in and so on. So if at all possible, we'd like to move that closing up a half an hour. So do you have any questions for me? It is Sunday, May 18th. Tony?
Do you have participants signing up already?
No, we put out about 100 flyers at one swap meet up in Denver, and going up again this weekend for another swap meet in Denver to do another 100 flyers. And then the actual mailings to all the people who've been here in the past 3 years will go out about the middle of February.
So you're expecting much bigger crowd this year too? I mean, it was
Never
great
know.
last year too.
We were overwhelmed last year with the increase in participation, so you just never know. We're just going to be prepared for 200 cars this year.
Good.
The actual car show is 9 to 4, but people come in before then.
And the street closing is requested for 5:30.
5:30 to block off those areas, because like I say, with the restaurants usually opening at 6, you know, there's a lot of cars in there, and it was an issue last year.
Tony, did you have a comment?
Yeah, on that South Pikes Peak, But you had a vendor there or something on that side of where the dentist office was,
Right.
and they were complaining about that last year, about that.
Who was complaining?
The people on that street there, they were wanting to see if they could move it across there on the north side of High Street.
Well, on the north side, it's set up for the swap meet. But we're only going halfway on the street, halfway to the alley.
Yeah, because
So-
they had a problem last year. I told them you have to take it up with the council, the rest of the council people. And
But you haven't heard anything since.
not since that day, they were
Okay.
talking to me about it.
Yeah.
That's the only problem they had with it.
Yeah, well, that's why, one of the reasons.
They didn't care about the other part of it, but they didn't care about that.
Well,
one.
sure. But, like I say, we just went halfway, just enough.
Yeah, I
to get
understand,
the-
but you know where you're going. But where he had that vendor right there by the dentist, and they were saying, well, it would be nice if they could have moved it across the street instead of on that
Yeah.
side of the street.
Well, the dentist wasn't even open, though.
No, I know. I didn't know why they were complaining about that.
Okay.
It looked kind of bad there. I don't know why. I don't know. I'd say maybe you could tell them. I don't know.
Larry?
How many vendors do you anticipate this year? Two?
Same as last year.
Okay.
That's what they had.
And are you planning anything maybe extra this year and anything new that we can expect?
Well, the only thing that's being just in the discussion stage right now is maybe Super 8 sponsoring a barbecue and try to get people coming over from the Abbey Car Show on Saturday to come in and circulate, late afternoon, early evening. So I don't have any more information for you on that right now because I'm not involved in dealing with that yet. There's a couple other people working on it.
And who's in charge of the little cars that will be racing? Just want to make sure we have
We will have valve cover racing.
valve car racing.
Yes, we will, and from indication last year, should be more than last year.
Okay, well, I think the track was out of whack. My
Well, for
car went
some,
down. When my car went down.
I was going to say something about that, but
All right, well, maybe we can improve on that.
some cars may not adapt well.
Mr. Edwards?
Yeah, just for the record, Mr. Upton, you'd like to start at 5 a.m. instead of 5:30?
5:30 instead of 6.
Okay,
that's all you have.
5:30 a.m. instead of 6, all right. That's all I have.
Mike, did you have a comment?
We just had a question, insurance, have you guys discussed insurance at all, or what you guys are doing this year?
We haven't been in to see Dory. I think, have we or not? I can't remember.
Florence Merchants covers the insurance because it's a state highway, street closure, we have to get a permit from the highway. So we have to insure it. And I think it's under 200 for that one day.
Right,
And the Florence Merchants cover the cost line.
okay. Yeah, Maury must have worked on that. I've been out of town for a while and haven't been,
Do we still have that?
Up with everything.
Do we still have that 2,000?
We didn't do that in this year's budget. We didn't-
Last year,
we
they
didn't
had the
budget that.
2,000, that was split up between the number of events for the year, but we don't have that this year, so you'll cover the whole cost.
so everybody has to cover their own this year?
Right.
Okay.
Paul?
The vendors that participate in this event, do they have to get licensed?
Not when it's a city-sponsored or co-sponsored event.
Yeah, they have all their own insurance and food vending licenses.
Okay, is that all the questions? And need someone to bring up a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I motion that we grant the request by Richard Upton for the car show request on May 18th, 2014, from the times of 5:30 a.m. till 4 p.m.
Second.
First and a second. Was Larry second?
It's a motion authorizing the street closures also.
Street closure.
Was that big?
Yeah. Roll vote.
Edwards.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Henninger. Aye. Filigrana.
Aye.
Hildingsrud.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Mayor Orr.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Can I bring you up to date on one more project?
Sure.
Okay, on the Gold Belt Tour sign project for the historic buildings, all the signs have been sent off, all the information has been sent off to the designer. She hopes to have a sample to me by the 10th, and hopefully all the layouts done by the end of the month. Because the goal is always to have these up in time for the tourist seasons. So I think there's about 45 signs involved in this.
Great.
So, 45. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. That's fine. Anyone else want to bring anything up? Please come up and state your name, address, please.
Good evening. My name is Makara, and I live at 126 North Fraser Avenue. How y'all doing this evening? First time I got to look at our new council. Been away for a while. Yeah. I did want to let the new council know how I personally feel about an upcoming issue. We all know over the years how I've spoken out pro-marijuana in our community. Pro-medicinal marijuana, pro-recreational marijuana, and in my opinion, the most important is the future coming of the industrial hemp industry for Florence. I know that in the next month or so, you guys are going to be looking at writing procedure, deciding whether you're actually going to allow recreational to happen. Last time I heard with the last council that you were going to allow that there was a probability that there would be an opening of recreational facilities. I would really like to see this council revisit the medicinal, the recreational, and leaving it open for the possibility of industrial in the future. There is so much revenue and so much help to the environment and to people in this community from this that I really don't think in good conscience that you can individually vote your own biased for or against. You need to vote the way this community has voted and vote to help the people in this community who have this need. Just wanted to say that for the record. Want to say anything to me?
I just have one thing. On what you talk about, the hemp, it was passed, the federal government has lifted its finger off of the hemp, which has been grown and passed out of country. So.
It has, and actually Hemp for Victory, the program during World War II, had a grow operation in Florence over on, not Macomber, what's the? Brewster. Brewster Lane had a Hemp for Victory farm that was there. So hemp is part of Florence's culture. And we have water here, which is something that many people don't. I hope that you will, I heard that there was something in the works about giving water to, or allowing the purchase of some of our water power to go to Pathfinder Park. I'm kind of really hesitant about that because I would like to see Florence be able to hold its substantial water power and use it as its own agricultural benefit with the industrial hemp movement. It is such a big moneymaker. It's a $500 million, I think, dollar industry nationwide, and we have paid all of that out to China and India for hemp because we're not allowed to grow it ourselves. Well, now the federal government through the Farm Bill is allowing the test crops to go out. It would be really great if Florence could be on the forefront of test cropping by not necessarily doing it of our own city power, but by allowing local farmers to push that through. I mean, how can you get investors for a hemp-oriented business, which is a huge non-narcotic industry, if you're openly against the other branches of the same legal industry within this state? Thanks for your time. Thanks for all you do. Wish you guys a good year.
Any other visitors? Yeah, please come up and state your name and address, please.
My name's Roger Fritchie, and I live in Florence. I have a daughter and granddaughter that live here. My granddaughter goes to middle school, and I'm very concerned about recreational marijuana because I don't want my granddaughter or any school kids, anybody, have access to it. I have nothing against hemp for industrial, but I do not think it's justified to have recreational marijuana. You might as well say, okay, cocaine's all right. You know, I lived out in California for 10 years, so I have experience with the excess and the problems with crazy drivers and out-of-control kids who are on marijuana. I'm just voicing my opinion and my desire that we do not approve it, and that's all I got to say.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions, council?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Please come up to the front, state your name and address, please.
John Miller, 111 Church Avenue. This last week we had our first marketing committee meeting, and as a result of that, we on the branding of Florence and a new logo for Florence, we're sending out a letter for artists and what do I want to say?
Graphic designers.
Graphic designers to produce or give us a quote and an outlay of a new logo for the city and the websites and what we might have to do to also put it on for CT. So anyhow, that's all I have to say about that. We'll be getting that logo to Mike, or that the application to Mike on that for the proposal of the logos, and they will be sent to City Council for approval and through us. So, and there's one other thing that I would like to do is on the 12th of February. In the past, there has been through the Chamber of Commerce, there's been a business after hours. All the public is welcome to those, and it would be great. We've seen a few city councilmen to that, to the after hours, but we would like to see you all there, because at that time, you would be able to maybe meet and greet some of the people in your own wards. Business people are there through the wards, and City of Canyon City shows up to some of it, and but we'd like to see you all attend the business after hours. And this month it'll be at Willie's Antiques, and Heartland Antiques is sponsoring it, and so is the Chamber of Commerce. It's through the chamber. So we'd like to see you all there. Pardon?
What was the date?
February 12th.
February 12th.
And time?
And there will be door prizes.
And time?
5 to 7. And it'll be on the websites and everything in the next couple of days.
Maybe in the morning now.
Larry?
Now, when you say a new logo, are you speaking of this city logo or something? I'm just curious.
It will be an advertising logo to brand the city of Florence throughout we're looking at. Pardon?
It's actually just a logo for the marketing campaign for the grant that we got through the CTO. So it's not actually changing the seal, it's just the look that we're going to go for this new marketing
Okay, I
campaign.
just was curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not just logo, it's everything, like font and color scheme, etc. Will have to be unified for all the marketing. For Chamber of Commerce, probably, if they will use this, and for everybody, whoever is promoting community will have to use the same scheme or the same design.
Yeah.
And we're looking to find the best design.
Right. Any questions?
Thank you for your time. Do I have any other visitors? Come on up, big guy.
Manfred Bruder, 517 West 2nd. I want to thank the new board for serving, and looking forward to a productive year. Of course, you'll be getting some input from me, as always. First thing I'd like to revisit just briefly, since it's fallen a little bit into the cracks, is the big proposed propane facility that Makar and I fought very hard to put the brakes on because we didn't feel it was a good fit for our community, and the feds apparently agreed with us wholeheartedly. I really encourage council to have a session, have a workshop if necessary, and to properly and procedurally change the zoning so that we couldn't possibly allow for these sort of activities to occur within our town in the future. An easy way to do that is just have a proposal that says in a light or heavy industrial area that any activities that could subsequently have a disaster or an impact of a disaster cannot extend past the boundaries of that property line. That would de facto keep a lot of those, very dangerous sort of industries from attempting to take root in our town. I mean, the fact is, if we're going to paint ourselves as a community rather than an industrial center, places like that are just not a good fit for us. So I hope that, it came up sort of late in the council session last year, and I hope that it's something that becomes on the forefront of what we do this year. That would be a right and proper zoning change, and it would help protect the community from these sort of future encroachments. So, second thing I wanted to address is, of course, if you do move forward and allow recreational marijuana sales within Florence, no one who is proposing that activity is going to be in favor of seeing those products distributed to minors or schools or anything like that. It would be regulated exactly the same way as we would regulate cigarettes and the way we would regulate alcohol. And by allowing it and by having a hands-on approach to those sales, you're actually going to have more input than you would if you are not involved in it and it comes in from out of town. So because the ship has sailed on this, every single ward in Florence voted in favor of Amendment 64, and it is your duty to carry out the wishes of the voters, your public servants. That is what you all take an oath to when you swear in for the new office. And it's time to move forward with that, and it's time to move forward and take advantage of the enormous tax windfalls that are coming from this. Pueblo West, just out of one dispensary, they're bringing in $60,000 a day, okay? That's significant money. And again, there's ways that you can properly regulate that activity and have it be a fit for our community. And again, have more workshops, have more input in terms of how that sort of activity can be conducted. So when things are, all said and done, and you're able to show a balance sheet up there that's actually growing in the correct direction, you're going to come out the heroes, and the community will get behind it. So, and you guys have seen it. You've seen, and I have too, of 20 years of going to FEDC councils and, seeing the same old tired approaches of trying to get industries to come here and things like that. The fact of the matter is America has significantly and permanently changed its economic makeup. The odds of us ever attracting any sort of industry like that are very long. And we're going to have to do it at the cost of the taxpayer, because we're going to have to provide some sort of an incentive for the infrastructure for them to do anything like that. And there's communities even more desperate than us will give them even better deals. So, I'm not telling you anything that's new. I'm just hoping that, you move forward and you show the leadership to take advantage of these financial opportunities.
I have a question, please. On your first subject, of course, you talked about the propane, and you said other perhaps dangerous things that we might approve. Could you give us any kind of examples on that?
Well, I think having the property boundary line rule would be very fair. So, for example, if you're involved in machinery or manufacturing, there's a certain amount of risk in any sort of industrial activity. But odds are if something happens that's consequential, it's not going to extend past the boundaries of the property. Now, if you're refining gasoline, if you're involved in, let's say, fertilizer manufacture, things like that, those could have very serious consequences beyond the borderline of the property. So I'd say that, and I'm not making this up, this is what other communities use, as a litmus test to decide whether they're going to allow a certain type of activity within light and heavy industrial. And they'll use things like the amount of noise that you make, the air pollution. There's all sorts of factors that can be included into that. So I'm not saying close the door to industry. Of course not. I mean, I have a business within light industrial. So what I am saying is that, reduce the opportunity for a corporation like Wallace Oil that clearly looked at our community as weak and looked at our zoning as weak and attempted to take advantage of that. And the way that the feds responded to this issue, I think, is proof in fact that it was indeed a very, very serious concern that should have never entered this community in the first place.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for your service.
Okay, do I have any other visitors? No? We'll move on to old business then. The second reading of ordinance 2-2014, amending 17.68.010 on-site parking.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second reading of ordinance 2-2014 as read.
Second.
We have a second? Okay, is there any discussion on this matter? No? Okay, roll call.
Baker.
Aye.
Henninger.
Aye.
Hiltonstrud.
Aye.
Villagrana.
Aye.
Edwards.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Mayor Lawrence.
Okay. Next one is recreational marijuana. Council direction to the city attorney for next regular meeting.
Okay, as many of you will recall, last fall you put a moratorium in place temporarily, not allowing marijuana of any sort until March 31st of this year. Obviously, we're getting closer and closer to that March 31st date, and we really are at the point where we're going to have to make a decision. I don't envy the seven of you. It's a very controversial issue, but you're going to have to give the city attorney direction one way or the other. And unless somebody has some other ideas, to me it seems like you're going to have to give direction one of three ways. One of those being you extend the moratorium permanently and you say you're not going to allow marijuana in the community. The second one would be to lift the moratorium, although you probably want to extend the moratorium no matter what, to give the city attorney enough time to write the rules so that you've got rules in place before anybody can come in and apply. But if you go that route, then you lift the moratorium and you allow recreational and/or medical marijuana. And then the third option that you have is to put it to a vote of the people. And I can't think of any other options that don't fit within those three. So basically, we're asking you, we've got to have the city attorney draft something. Right now, we can have him draft all three, and that's a lot of work for him. So we're asking if the council has a direction that they want to give the city attorney. It'd be wonderful to do that, or we can come back in 2 weeks and have all three prepared.
Yeah. Part of the problem we have right now is, here we are at February 3rd, so you would be considering this action at our next meeting on the 18th, first reading, if it's an ordinance, which it would be. Second reading then would be March 3rd, and then typically an ordinance does not take effect for 30 days. You're going to have to, whatever you do, I think, place an emergency clause in that ordinance because your current moratorium expires March 31. As you know, traditionally an ordinance does not take effect for 30 days after second reading.
After publication.
That's right, after publication of second reading. So that's why we're kind of pushing you here to decide what you want to do. it seems to me that you're going to have to extend the current moratorium for at least a certain period of time, even if you want to regulate this. If you want to consider, and I think you would, changes to the zoning code, that in and of itself is a 3-month process. I mean, you got a notice, you got a public hearing before the planning commission, you've got 2 readings before the city council, and then you've got 30 days after that for it to take effect. And then the regulatory end of this, you know, you're talking about licensure, you're talking about determining perhaps a number of establishments, whether or not you want them within a certain distance of other places like schools or daycare centers or whatever. There are a number of things that need to go into the whole regulatory framework. It's going to take us some time to hash through. So as an initial thought, you can take it, I guess, for what it's worth, but you might consider extending it, if you want to regulate it, at least 6 months out to give us an opportunity to create the regulatory framework necessary to do it. As Mike indicated, of course, there's the other option of going to the voters, which the law specifically provides. 6 months from now, what was that, July? The ballot question would need to be certified by Dory by the end of August, so you would have to have second reading on that by the second meeting in July.
At the latest.
At the latest.
Well, the 6 months out would be really August.
That's what we need to be done,
Yeah,
because I
that's-
certify the ballot the first
Right.
week of September.
How much does that cost?
There will be another.
It would be a coordinated election. It'd probably cost us
$5,000.
about 5,000,
But
under 5,000.
Taxpayer money?
Yes.
there is another question that, right?
No, Edwards have his hand first.
She asked the same question exactly the way what the cost is going to be to the citizens and for that.
And the third option, of course, which the law also allows, and a number of cities have, is that you just extend your moratorium permanently. So that's it, I think, and so I need some direction.
Stellana?
There was another question we didn't consider. We considered it at first, but then we decided not, at least in informal talks or whatever, in committees, decided not to put it on the ballot because there was only one question. But now there is another question will be on the ballot, so we might as well add this one, maybe.
I think the people
Maybe.
have already voted by
We're not
name.
saying that we will do it.
The majority of each ward already voted yes for 64. You have your
This isn't a
direction.
public hearing. Yeah, this isn't. Paul?
You know, with all due respect to you all and everybody else, I have, number one, I have the pleasant duty of keeping score at the basketball games. So consequently, I managed to visit a lot of folks. The last basketball game was on Thursday, and I visited with some folks. I visited with 15 seniors, older people, adults. 14 of those were not in favor of recreational marijuana. One was in favor of it because of the tax revenue. I talked to 6 high school students. 2 of the high school students were in favor of recreational marijuana for the factor that the revenue would come back into our school system. The other 4 were against it. I am not against hemp, nor am I against medical marijuana. I think that when I voted on this, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for nobody else. When I voted for it, I was under the impression, or I didn't read it the way I should have read it, that I was voting strictly for medical marijuana, which I really really do believe that people should have, if it helps them to have, to do something like, I'm all for it. My proposal would need to put this on a ballot. Because out of 14 people that were against it, they said in order to be fair, the city council should put this question before all of the people, because it affects all the people. How many of these people voted the way I did? I can't tell you. But I can tell you for myself that I voted strictly from the aspect that I wanted people that were sick to have some kind of relief and some kind of help.
Amendment 64 did not mention that.
I need you to come up.
I'm just saying, this is how I voted.
But it wasn't in
It doesn't make any difference whether it was there or not. The question was,
Okay, this isn't an open meeting.
I thought that people that needed it should have it. And that's how I voted. That's what my heart told me.
Okay, this isn't an open meeting. It's,
Well, it's an open meeting, but it's not a public hearing.
comments?
Mr. Mayor, I believe it's been brought up on, and I'm sure it's on the agenda somewhere. We are going to be having a workshop on this in the near future. Did we?
No.
We haven't set a date.
We don't have any, at this point, we have no
time.
workshop set up at this point. You can do one at the next meeting if you'd like to do it at the next meeting and have it part of your decision process that night.
One other kind of question, Mr. Frederickson, if, for the, let's say for the regulations, and could you give me a specific time if we did entertain to extend this moratorium, a direct time or a date that would be a good time to extend?
6 months is what I'm
So
suggesting.
6 months from the 14th?
Because I think you're looking at not only a regulatory framework, but you're looking at the zoning code as well, I'm assuming.
And I believe to carry on the question, there's something that has to do with, a person has to go to the state for a permit before they come to us, and it would be October before they could if they even started at this point. Dory may be able
At
to
this
answer.
point, anybody that went to the state for a license for Florence couldn't even, because we have a moratorium. Now, if we lift the moratorium or extend it, and the state's notified of what that deadline is, and we go to July 31st, then after July 31st, someone could apply with the state and be in process of getting a license for Florence, only if the state knows that we're ready to regulate it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Charlotte?
I have to agree. I think the voters already voted, and I think that we have a better chance of regulating instead of trying to keep it out. It's here anyway. Right now, as the state law is, anybody can have 3 plants in their backyard. You think a kid's not going to jump the fence and go trim that plant themselves and get their hands on it? When we have a chance to write rules to keep it out of the youth's hands and have it in a secure building with cameras and, just make it regulated, we have that chance to do it. And I think if we don't do it, it's just going to get in their hands another direction, another way. So I would propose that we leave the moratorium for another 6 months to write the rules and regulations and then move forward at the will of the voters.
I would have to agree with her in not leaning in any direction with an extension, just shutting the door on it. I think we're shutting the door and we're going to ask for a lot of problems. I think if we extend, that it does buy us time. But with that extension, I would like to move forward with regulation and getting things done. And if it's a waste of time or a little bit of money, at least we've given a little more time rather than to shut the door on this. I know we're going to be mixed to the community and everywhere, but that's part of the job we raised our hand for. And I just think getting rid of it altogether is could cause some problems. It's my suggestion that we move towards the extension and regulation, and then if something comes up from now and then, at least we do have the option to go forward or stop. It leaves the door a little more open. Would that be?
Is that true? Right.
I've written it down.
Yeah, but is it true that we could, if we decided, like he says, or we could put a stop to it completely if we was doing it?
At any time.
At any time.
At any time.
Okay.
Right.
I would agree with Mel. I think we should go ahead and let's proceed writing up the regulations, doing all those things in regards to the zoning, etc. And once we have that in our hands, then we would be more able to go ahead and make a decision. Right now, we're not really voting one way or the other. But let's go ahead and prepare that portion of it. And I don't know if that requires a motion and so forth, but
I'm just trying to get a sense of where everybody is.
I think we should go ahead and find out exactly how this thing would be set up and where it would be and so forth. And that's, we can discuss this forever, but if we don't have some details to work with, I think we should proceed forward.
I think since it's already allowed, it's like trying to keep sand between, or it will escape anyway in our hands. So it will escape anyway. So we probably should allow it, but I would be really pushing toward allowing it in light industrial or industrial zoning, and that's my opinion in this case.
Well, it sounds to me like you got the majority of it. Right.
Anyone else want to weigh in on this?
I think like Mel does. Same way.
And I just have one question, and it involves Paul's comments. We can still, we have no deadline. If we get a big public outcry and it seems like we're going the wrong direction, or we just can't do, we can still put this on a ballot later at a later date, right? We do. What would be the deadline?
That would have to be completely done by July 31st.
Right. It's quite a ways.
It's within your time frame of your moratorium to have an ordinance
So I recall,
setting a ballot question.
the law also requires it to be an even numbered year. So if you don't get it this time, it would be 2016, which is a bit out there. So, yeah, it seems to me if that was what you were looking at, you'd want to try to make this ballot, that would be, the ballot title would need to be set by the second reading in July, right, Dory? So that she could certify that language to the county by the end of August. So I guess what I'm hearing is, let's extend the current temporary moratorium for another 6 months. I think you're asking me to take a stab at a regulatory ordinance, and I can do that by pulling from what some other cities have done. It's going to be a lot of tweaking to make it fit what you're all thinking about. You're going to have, I think, some kind of workshop in terms of zoning where you would want this activity to be allowed in what zone districts.
And the number.
And the number of establishments, you can regulate that also.
Shouldn't the zoning be done by sending it to the planning commission?
They would.
Well, of course, it goes there first. But I need to prepare an ordinance.
Get that ready first, but then it goes to planning commission to...
And perhaps you want to talk to planning commission members about what they're thinking in terms of zoning as well. Okay, so next time, anyway, I'll have an ordinance extending the temporary moratorium for 6 months.